First transfer was absolutely wonderful. Um, we worked really hard. We were tired as dogs. It was just, oh man, you'd come home and like, it'd be so awesome to get back to bed because you're just so tired. So you pull up the covers, and then it was like the moment I closed my eyes, I'd open them again and it's 6:30. And it felt like I didn't even sleep, you know? And I was like, oh wow, oh man, I'm so tired, but it's time to go again. And you just jump out and you start doing exercises. And oh man, it was just like, it was crazy. Crazy awesome, but it was crazy. And then the second transfer, I stayed in the area and I got a new senior companion. And we were preparing for the baptism of Tuula Heinola. And my personality is the kind that likes to take charge and take new challenges. And so I was kind of running the show, and it was my second transfer, but he, my companion, he kind of let me do most of the work because I wanted to, he was coming into my area, and so I wanted to kind of, test my wings a bit. And so I did. And then all the stress that culminated from it, after district meeting one day, I was walking down the stairs of the church and my legs just gave out. And so I like grabbed a hold onto the rail as I was walking down the stairs. And so I was like, Elder Hall, you doing all right over there? I'm like, I'm doing great. And so anyhow, we walked into the primary room and just put a couple of chairs together, and I laid down on them. And I had this thing about greenie fire for 2 years. Like, I can't waste a minute. But it was at that point when I was laying like this on the chairs. So, one on each side, or a couple on each side. And that's when I noticed how tired my body was. But I still had this thing inside me. Like my spirit was just like, go, go, go. 19 and a half months left. This is no time for rest. And I remember expressly thinking that, but my body just would not move. And so I'm laying there and I fought it. I was like, no, let's go. But my body just wouldn't move. And then I just fell asleep. I don't remember how long I slept for, but when I woke up, I was like a new man. But that's just kind of set the pattern for my mission. I never learned to be balanced necessarily, and I quite frankly still struggle with that. I just go. I don't know when to stop, which from what I've learned, that is not working diligently. That's overworking, and that's not healthy. And I do know of other missionaries who have had to stop their missions because of that. And so there's great wisdom in realizing that you work full hours, you dedicate your life to this, but there's time for wholesome recreation as well. And that's something that, I'm super glad I learned that lesson then. Well, I am still learning that lesson to actually make it a reality to balance my life. And now I go skiing once a week. That's my thing. I have given myself one evening out of the week to go skiing, to have this balance. And on the mission, you have P days. So, it's good to have those breaks and be able to do that. And I taught at the MTC, and I would tell this to them as well, too. Because it's a stressful time. Missions can get really stressful. Because you want to do well. You're on the Lord's time clock. You don't want to screw this up. And I certainly did not. But Interestingly enough, all that stress that I had during the mission, I imagined, I had this image of in my mind, like once I get to the end of my mission, I can stop stressing. That stress will go away, and I can finally rest and say, I fought the good fight. You know, I did my part. But the end of my mission came, and I didn't know when that would come. So some missionaries were high-fiving, you know, the Sunday before. We left, went to the mission home on Thursday, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. But like the Sunday before, they were like, yeah, we made it, whoa. And I'm like, no, I bet there's at least one more family I can find. And so, and I think we did. We actually did find somebody who did get baptized after I left. But then I got to the mission home and I was like, oh, maybe this is when I can relax. But I didn't get that yet. And so, and I thought, well, maybe it's on the flight home. So, but it wasn't. It wasn't on the flight home. I still needed to share the gospel. So I did. And I got a couple of referrals for the missionaries. So then I figured, okay, well, it must be when I get, you know, into my home. And I hadn't been released as a missionary yet, but so I was in my home and it didn't actually go away yet. And so I was like, well, you know what? I need to do something. And so, so what I did, I had 3 hours before I was going to get released. So I gathered my family together. Which currently at home was my mom and dad and my 2 little brothers. One of them who had been inactive for about 5 years at that point. And I had them sitting in the living room, and then Elder Ahola taught the first discussion, the message of the restoration of the gospel. And it was a powerful lesson. And the spirit was very strong. And then came the time for me to be released. We drove over to the stake president's home. And it was really anticlimactic, by the way. I was expecting something, and he just sat me down, asked me a few questions, and says, okay, well, now you can take the badge off. And I was like, that's it? There isn't like a ritual or something? It's like, no, that was it. I'm like, what? And that was it. But I worked hard for 2 years. I really did. I can honestly say I could not have worked any harder. Maybe I could have worked smarter, and I definitely tried to do that. But in me, I just have this confidence from knowing that I served the Lord for 2 years, nonstop. Almost passed out a few times, which is unhealthy and should not be done. I overworked, but overstressed. But I gave my all, and the Lord has in return. And I continue to serve. It seems like a lot of missionaries come home and they feel that they look back at the glory days of, oh man, on the mission, I was so spiritual and everything. Spirituality is not a function of whether you have a black name tag or not. Spirituality is a function of how much you study the scriptures, how your prayers are, how you're serving people. You don't need a name tag for that. You don't need a special calling to serve others. You've already made covenants for that. And so I believe that if the mission, the 2 years, they're called the best 2 years, which they are. Up to that time in my life, those were the best 2 years. But if that's the greatest joy that the Lord had in store for me, He would keep me as a missionary. And since coming home, I'm still a disciple. I still experience miracles. I still have deep joy that comes from serving others. It's hasn't disappeared. As a matter of fact, the very opposite. It has increased. I'm still an instrument in the hands of the Lord to bless those around me. And I rejoice in that. It's a wonderful thing. And I get to go on dates. Gee, it does get better. Yeah, so, and eventually, I'll find a wife. I'm still single. But, I'll find a wife and we'll go serve missions and do all that stuff. Full time again. But it's just good. I'm the kind of a guy that enjoys being happy and having joy. And I'm happy that I can serve a God who has that plan for me. Whether I'm on the mission or post-mission. But, so...